Breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I smile. Dwelling in the present moment, I know this is a wonderful moment. I heard this first many, many years ago. At least 40. Scary. I didn't know at the time, but found out later it was ascribed to Thich Nhat Hanh, who died recently. I'm having such a bad hair day today. Oh, this is so sore. I can hardly swallow. All of these external things aren't our real self. From Zoroastrianism, the Gathas, they have a wonderful saying, "Give me the gift that is the greatest gift of all. Give me the inmost self of all the selves." That such information was being shared so long ago is quite impressive. And we do have many, many different selves, many little eyes, each wanting to take control and take the thing it wants. These eyes or selves come from different brains in us. And in contemporary science, they have the idea of the Triune brain theory, which corresponds with earlier expositions of the same theory, except they were four brains, where two of them were put together. And those two being put together would make up in the Triune brain theory what's referred to as the reptile brain. Then we have the emotional brain and the intellectual brain in one person. So 3 brains in one person, all with different aims, desires, and wishes. And in each of those brains, hundreds of little people, in a sense, all wanting their specific individual thing and wanted to take control of the whole for a time in order to experience it. And in general, in humanity, most people, the vast majority on the planet, are in this reptile brain, the lower brain, which has very basic needs: money, food, sex, security, which are sophisticated in the other brains, but the other brains are being controlled by this hidden reptile brain, the man behind the curtain, so to speak, who is actually the puppeteer of the individual without any form of work on themselves. Of course, this is concealed, and the reptile brain hates nothing more than to be observed. Because when it's observed, when presence comes into your body, it feels as if it's being invaded, and it'll do everything it can to shake off presence. Keith Richard, at one point, said, "What contortions we will go through simply in order to avoid being with ourselves." And it is like that. We'll go after all kinds of things simply in order to avoid being still and being with our most inner self. The nature of our most inner self is blissful, joyful, unattached. The Buddha, amongst many others, have pointed out that all suffering comes from attachment. In an unattached state, there can be no suffering. But we give away our identity to external things. We attach and become identified with other people, other things, and even sensations, thoughts, feelings, desires. The rishis of India, who had millions of hours pooled between them of meditation practices, described the reality of people who hadn't done any form of work towards consciousness as being an illusion, which they gave the name Maya to. And contemporary neurologists have a similar idea, that we only have 10% of our input that's actually being processed in the brain. The other 90% is made up by the brain and reconstructing things. As a child, I experienced something similar. Lying in bed at night, I imagined I saw a rocket man, a man with a pointed head and shoulders on the wall, and I was terrified of this. As a child, we're like in a completely different state. We're in theta and delta state brainwaves as opposed to the alpha of the adult. So this was very real to me. At that age, we can't distinguish. There is no distinguishing line between reality and fantasy. It wasn't till many years ago, as an adult, a song came out called Rocket Man, which I'm sure you're familiar with, that it came back to me how terrified I was of this shadow, which was only really a shadow, it had no reality. Often I've seen things in the distance which I was certain were a person, and coming a little closer turned out to be something entirely different. But on a daily basis, our mind is constantly making stuff up, finishing stuff off for us. I'll put a link in the description of someone who brings this knowledge out in a more defined way. So I'll leave it there for now. Bye-bye.